In a small apartment on the edge of a crowded city lived a young man named Zayan. He was 24 years old, educated, and capable, but no one would have known it by looking at him. He walked with his eyes down. He spoke in half sentences, always stopping before finishing a thought, afraid someone might disagree. In meetings, he had brilliant ideas but kept them locked inside his chest. At family gatherings, he sat in corners, smiling when spoken to but never speaking first. People liked Zayan, but they didn't respect him. And deep down, he knew why. He didn't respect himself. His friends called him the quiet one. His boss overlooked him for promotions. His younger colleagues were advancing while he stayed still. At night, he would lie awake replaying every conversation, every moment he had stayed silent when he should have spoken, every opportunity he had let walk past him because he didn't believe he was enough. One evening, after watching a colleague half as qualified receive the promotion he had been waiting 2 years for, Zayan sat alone in a park. He stared at the ground for a long time. Then he whispered to no one, "What is wrong with me?" An old man sitting on the nearby bench looked over gently. "Nothing is wrong with you, son. But something is missing." Zayan looked up, startled. The man had kind eyes and steady hands resting on a wooden cane. His name was Ibrahim, a retired professor who came to this park every evening. "What's missing?" Zayan asked quietly. Ibrahim didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into his bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He handed it to Zayan. On it were 2 words, "Own yourself." "That's it," Zayan said, almost laughing. Ibrahim nodded. "Every day you walk through life apologizing for your own existence. You shrink yourself before anyone asks you to. You doubt before anyone doubts you. You've built a prison, and you're both the prisoner and the guard." The words hit Zayan like cold water. "But how do I change?" he asked. "I've always been like this. Maybe this is just who I am." Ibrahim shook his head slowly. "Confidence is not a personality. It is a practice. And like all practices, it begins with one small act." He told Zayan to do something the next morning, just one thing. Walk into his office, greet his colleagues first, look them in the eye, and smile. Not because he felt confident, but because he was choosing to act like someone who was. "But I'll feel fake," Zayan said. "You feel fake now," Ibrahim replied. "The difference is, one version of a fake leads somewhere. The other keeps you stuck." The next morning, Zayan's heart was pounding as he walked through the office doors. His instinct was to stare at his phone, avoid eye contact, slide into his chair unnoticed, the way he always did. Instead, he stopped. He looked up. He greeted his colleague Sana first. She looked surprised, then smiled warmly. He nodded at his manager. He sat at his desk with his back straight. Nothing dramatic happened. No applause. No miracle. But inside, something had shifted, a tiny, almost invisible shift. He did it again the next day. And the next. He returned to the park every evening, and Ibrahim was always there. Some days they talked. Other days they just sat in silence. But each evening, Ibrahim gave him one more small challenge. Speak in the meeting, even if your voice shakes. Disagree with someone, politely, but clearly. Send the email you've been drafting for 3 weeks. Tell your mother you love her, out loud, not just in your heart. Each task felt impossible before he did it. Each time, after he did it, it felt smaller than he feared. One afternoon, Ibrahim said, "Zayan, do you know why people lack confidence?" "Because they're afraid." Zayan guessed. "No. Fear is normal. Everyone is afraid. People lack confidence because they have never collected enough evidence that they can handle hard things. Every time you avoid difficulty, you tell your mind, I am not capable. Every time you face it, you tell your mind, I survived. I am stronger than I thought. Confidence is built from collective proof, and you collect that proof one action at a time. Zayan sat quietly with those words. He thought about every time he had stayed silent in a meeting, every avoided conversation, every email deleted before sending. He hadn't been protecting himself. He had been starving himself of the very experiences that build belief. Weeks passed. Then months. The changes were slow, then suddenly very fast, the way a seed works underground for weeks before the shoot appears overnight. Zayan began contributing ideas in meetings. His manager started noticing. His colleagues began coming to him for input. He took on a project no one else wanted, worked through it with patience and focus, and delivered results that surprised everyone, including himself. He stopped apologizing for opinions he hadn't even expressed yet. He stopped adding, "I don't know, maybe I'm wrong but," before every sentence. He stopped making himself smaller so others could feel bigger. One morning, he looked in the mirror while getting dressed, and for the first time in years, he didn't look away quickly. He looked at himself. And he didn't flinch. 6 months after that first evening in the park, Zayan was called into his manager's office. He was offered the promotion. Not because he had become someone else, but because he had finally become himself, fully, unapologetically, without permission. He ran to the park that evening. But Ibrahim's bench was empty. A young woman sitting nearby said, "If you're looking for the old professor, he moved to his daughter's home last week. But he left something for you." She handed Zayan a small envelope. Inside was the same folded paper from 6 months ago, the one with 2 words on it. But now, on the back, Ibrahim had written more. Zayan, confidence was never about becoming fearless. It was about moving forward while afraid. You didn't find confidence. You built it, brick by brick, day by day, choice by choice. That building belongs to you now. No one can take it down. Zayan folded the paper carefully and placed it in his pocket. He walked home, back straight, eyes forward, like a man who had finally arrived somewhere he had been trying to reach his whole life. Here is what this story wants you to know. Confidence is not a gift given to the lucky few. It is not something you are born with or without. It is built through small, consistent acts of courage repeated long enough that your mind begins to believe, "I am someone who does hard things." You will feel afraid. Do it anyway. You will feel unready. Begin anyway. You will feel like an imposter. Show up anyway. Because on the other side of every avoided moment is a version of you that stayed small. And on the other side of every moment faced, however imperfectly, is a version of you that grew. Own yourself. That is where unbreakable confidence begins.